EVP Ad Sales at Hulu. Kevin Doohan, EVP Marketing for Machinima. Janae Poor, Product Solutions, Media and Entertainment for Google YouTube. And Randy Schaefer, Western Region Sales Director for Microsoft. Ezra, take it away.
Thanks, Jack. So I'm Ezra Palmer. I'm the editorial director for eMarketer. I'm really pleased to join you here and be joined with the panel to talk about the idea of the future of the network, or perhaps better call it the new network. We have 4 panelists here who are examples of a new kind of network. They've been showing challenging assumptions about what a network is and what it can be for the last several years, and what it'll be in the future. But I want to start essentially by posing the question to all of you to kick around. What's the point of a network in the future? I think of myself as when I think about the music that I consume, I don't listen to albums. I don't listen to labels for sure. I listen to songs. I listen to playlists, and it's as Seneca was talking about, I'm curating the content of myself. So how does a new network play into that? Kevin, I'll kick it to you first because you're sitting closest to me.
Sure. So I should take a moment and explain what we are, just a moment. So Machinima is the largest entertainment network for young males, video entertainment network for young males on YouTube. We have top-down and bottom-up contents. We have scripted original content that we create or license, longer-form narrative. That's part of the programming on our channel. The other piece is 8,000 plus individual YouTube channels that all roll up to us in YouTube CMS, and we can sell advertising into those channels. That's 8,000 individual creators who all are bringing inventory to Machinima. So with that context, I'd say some of the usefulness of a network is helping those 8,000 creators grow their business and grow their viewership, right? As opposed to being by themselves. There are lots of kind of best practices we can share. There's cross-promotion that we can do. Part of our responsibility certainly is to help them grow their audience. And the second benefit, I'd say, is a shorthand, both for advertisers and for consumers, right? So when you see Machinima network ID in front of a clip, you have a certain expectation of what is going to come after it. Or if you're an advertiser, you know you're going to get, by and large, you're going to get young guys, you're going to get edgy content, you know what to expect with Machinima. So it's that shorthand for both consumers and for advertisers.
That's great, and I think in asking each of you this question, it would be great for you to talk a little bit about not just what you see the value of the network is, but how your network plays into that, and give us a background on what that network is. Sure. So Kevin.
Sure. So we're, as you guys might know, a joint venture of the Disney Corporation, News Corp, and Comcast, NBC Universal. So we are a product of networks and studios that are fundamentally just giving us their content to distribute across a number of different channels. So a network to us, in a number of different ways, can be a audience composite of what you're trying to represent your shows to, but it can also be a distributor more along the lines of a syndicator like we are. So depending on whether you're looking at pre-made content or if you're actually going out and originating content, what we try to do is we try to find niches in our audience that represent a brand that is Hulu. Men 18 to 34, women 18 to 34, 18 to 49, skewing slightly younger than what the living room is, and program our shows to serve that audience and look for niche audiences that we can find content that is beloved, not just beliked. And I think you find that in the cable world as well. There are certainly brands that are networks in the cable world. Sci-Fi is a good example. Oxygen obviously serves a very specific type of audience. So you do get that. But for us in general, I do think that the network is a proxy for the audience that the advertisers are going to ultimately buy.
Okay, fair enough. Randy?
Yeah, so I work on our Xbox Live team. So for those of you who are familiar with Xbox, we are the largest television network in the world. 46 million subscribers and 76 million consoles. So for us, the network, and we were talking about this earlier, is we look at it as how we're connecting those users. It's you go onto this platform where you know where your friends are. Like we were just talking about here, you know the type of experience you're going to get, the type of technology behind it. So there's connect features, voice features. So the network is that underlying feature of bringing everyone together. And then we look at, I mean, for me personally, it's not the network I care so much about, it's my subscription. It's, does Hulu have the content that I have? Does Machinima have the content? So for us, it's yes, the underlying technology of the network, bringing the users together. And also what's great for us in advertising, the best piece is users are self-identifying. So anyone who turns on an Xbox, they are raising their hand and they're picking their avatar. Now you're entering the service. So we can optimize it for you, optimize it for the advertiser, and it's that better experience. So for the user and for the advertiser.
Thanks. Janae?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that we're necessarily a network in the sense that we're actually a platform that brings multiple networks together. So whether it be Machinima or Vivo or other partners like Vice or Alloy, we really are that place that kind of aggregates all of those different networks together. I think from our perspective, networks allow consumers to find and discover content in various channels. Obviously, YouTube is a somewhat enormous platform, to work your way through. So having access to these networks that kind of curate your content really makes the experience much better.
Great. So it seems to me that yesterday's conversations and presenters really focused much more on metrics and measurement, and we may have time to talk about it, but today's conversation has focused a lot more, to my mind, on the content itself. And I want to encourage you guys to, like, some of you push back your chairs a little bit so you can face each other better. And basically my question is, I think this morning there was an interesting story in the New York Times by Brian Stelter talking about House of Cards, of course, because everybody's talking about House of Cards, but also about the original program that's being developed by Amazon. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he may have mentioned each one of the folks at the far end of the row, not Machinima. Sorry, Kevin. But if only he knew that you were here, he would have included you as well. So what I want to put to you all is this question of original programming, and to what extent is it the cornerstone of your networks? To what extent is it a value of the network? And I also then want to dig into and have you guys essentially follow this where it goes to talk about what's driving your decisions of which content to make. Kevin, from your perspective as the closest to the traditional focus on creating content, why don't you talk us through that a little bit?
So if we're looking at original content to create, I would say it's pretty important. We've created a bunch of stuff or licensed programs. This past year we did Halo 4 Forward Unto Dawn with Microsoft. We had Battlestar Galactica. That was a partnership with Sci-Fi. Mortal Kombat, Warner Brothers. We have a bunch of stuff in the pipeline, partnerships with directors, et cetera. I guess the way that I view it, or the way that we view it, is really the original programming. It's kind of what Seneca said, right? It can define your network. When I don't watch, but Real Housewives on Bravo, you know, like that's, sorry, I watch it, but Real Housewives on Bravo, like, you know kind of what Bravo is, right? And I think they had no identity in the past. So from my perspective, one of the things original programming can do is really kind of define who you are and help you attract and cultivate that audience that you desire, that you want to deliver to advertisers. So I'd say that's probably the primary thing. I see it can be network defining.
So are you getting feedback from your distribution partners? I don't think, I can't remember, are you on Hulu or not?
We're not on Hulu. I've been at Machinima for 6 months. The conversation hasn't come up. I'll have to talk about it when I get back at the ranch. But we're about to be on Xbox, and of course YouTube is where we were born and raised, and where we love being today. So we're creating the content for we want it to really be anywhere that our consumers would like to enjoy it.
And are you, in these partnerships, do you expect to get feedback from them to understand what it is that's going to drive viewership and audience?
It depends. I mean, we've had some pretty robust conversations with Xbox as we plan programming, because what we don't want to do is kind of, replicate our YouTube channel on Xbox. We should take a very specific approach to that. So we certainly have had some good conversations with Microsoft. I'd say YouTube enables us in all kinds of ways, but on YouTube we really get the feedback from our audience. So one of the things that's super unique is we know right away if content is good or bad, right? So what might be different in our approach from some others is we will put content out there and kind of see how the audience reacts, right? Or another thing we've done is identify something that's happening on YouTube, right? So in the case of Mortal Kombat, the community is already generating content. They're stoked on this IP, and we can see these videos happening, right? So we can see that simmering pot, and in a way, turn up the heat on it, really, right? create some more premium content, web series, evolves into a second season of the web series, a feature film production with Warner Brothers. But all of that started with stuff that we saw kind of happening on YouTube and the feedback that we saw on our channel.
Kevin, you have the other Kevin, you have an interesting, kind of a very different and interesting problem to solve in that you have all of this content from the traditional content providers, and yet I know that you guys have been active in developing content.
Yep.
What's driving that?
So you're absolutely right. It's a different type of problem than a lot of folks have. We always have to be very mindful of original programming and exclusive programming that we're licensing for the service to be able to hold up to a very, very high quality bar of network television programming. So we do think of ourselves as that next generation of video distribution, of storytelling, where we can do for television creators what Sundance did for film, and be able to find audiences that are able to amass in longer periods of time, more on a video on demand type curve, with budgets that look a little bit more like a cable television budget than necessarily a large broadcast network budget, and then find audiences that will feverishly consume that content, and obviously go out and sell it to advertisers as well. But exclusives are a big part of that. We define all of our content that comes in a little bit differently. Exclusives are content that already exists, but just doesn't exist here in the U.S. So we go out and we look at things like Misfits from the U.K. We look at great shows like Spy and a number of other things. Prisoners of War from Israel, which was the precursor, or at least the baseline story for what became Homeland. So we distribute those exclusively here in the U.S. And one of the cool things was, for Misfits in particular, we started it, we ran the first 2 seasons, and it was picked up by a cable property. So it was the first time that ever happened, where a show was distributed online and then actually made the transition into the cable world.
That still feels like a little bit of the shadow of the old media, is that we still sometimes see success as being a measure of the shows that move out of the digital world and onto the traditional broadcast world. You see that happen with blogs, where they get successful and they sell a book. And are there examples, good examples at this point, of properties going the other way and still being considered a success?
Yeah, actually, way back in the day for FX in particular, Always Sunny in Philadelphia was a show that in its first season was a popular show, but not a widespread hit among a lot of audiences. We at Fox and the FX folks were nice enough to give us their entire season through the summer as sort of a counter-programming move to get a bit of amplification on that brand. And I think it nearly doubled its ratings when it came back into television the following season. So you have this idea that there are lots of different points to entry, and I don't think it's just about serving the television audience and trying to figure out new and improved ways to get there. I think it's serving every single audience wherever they are, and trying to make sure that content is just ubiquitously available. Machinima, if they came on Hulu, great. That if the users are there that want to watch that programming, awesome. Can they go to YouTube to find it? Absolutely. And I think that's the key. If it's popular, it's going to find its way to audiences regardless of what their end game of usage looks like.
But it is a little different for Xbox, given the sense that you're the only person here who's operating, I think, in a truly closed environment. Is exclusivity more important in that case, or totality of available content more important?
Yeah, it's and also to answer the last question that you had, Ezra. We just recently brought Golden Gods, which is a rock award show, heavy metal award show from VH1 onto Xbox, and doubled the ratings that it had when it was on VH1. The vice presidential debates, we brought them onto Xbox, and over 3 million, all of our users were actually engaging with it with Smart Glass and posing and answering up to 3 million questions while they're consuming that content. For us, we understand original content. That's obviously even how our roots started with Halo and making ourselves, that was our original content, bringing that game service onto the platform. Having that private network definitely gives us a lot of capabilities with technology. Once again, leveraging Connect and all these things that we know all of our users have. The key thing too, and I'll answer, I have 2 pieces here, is we want our platform to be the best place to consume this content. So YouTube's app, Hulu's app, or Machinima's app, we want it to be better on our device. So what I mean by that is, I watched the movie Dark Knight, and I watch it on our device. It has smart glass capabilities, so it has that secondary experience. So it's not original content, but it's an original experience with that content, and I can only get it on that platform. We are definitely moving into the original content space. So with Nancy Tellem coming over from CBS, she's now running the Xbox Entertainment Studio. But once again, the underlying root of the platform is we want all content to be better on our device. So to be that new experience on that device, or just even just a better experience overall. So with Sesame Street or Nat Geo, anyone in here play Sesame Street or Nat Geo on Xbox? Anyone? Please? Highly recommend it. If you haven't done it, Sesame Street, it's two-way television. You're playing there, Grover's asking you to help out. You have to throw a coconut to Grover in order for the shows to progress. So you're actually interacting with the shows. So once again, taking a show on TV, putting it onto our platform, leveraging our network and our technology that we know our users have, and having that better experience. If you don't have a copy, email me afterwards. I'll send you a copy.
Janae, are you, you consider yourself, I think, as you put it, you're an aggregation of networks. How do you look at original content, and what are the rules that you guys are following to think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely new territory for us, given kind of what we've done in the last 18 months or so. Obviously, Robert Kinsel came down from Netflix and started our content team in Beverly Hills. I think when we look at things, when you looked at our investment going into the new fronts last year, it was really understanding our user base and consumers and what they were consuming and looking at those partners that did it very well and figuring out how to either partner with them or mimic it depending on the genres that were popping. So whether it be fashion and beauty and Michelle Phan, figuring out what does that look like in original content for us. I mean, as everyone knows, we don't necessarily own any original content, but we give a lot of love to original content on the platform. But really trying to understand what our consumers were already doing in both demos and trying to make it better and more quality for advertisers and for consumers.
Talk to me about what you do with the knowledge of that. Do you share that openly? Is it platform-based, or is it something beyond that?
I mean, I definitely think we have, external data that everyone can see, and I think that also we have some great things given kind of who we are as a company. Going back to Kevin's earlier point about data and what he can learn about his consumers on YouTube in real time, I mean, it's interesting to look at quantitative and qualitative data coming from YouTube and seeing kind of what people are saying as they're watching it, rather than it being so siloed into one or the other.
Right. Kevin McGurn, are you taking your learning sort of database and then taking them out and think in terms of developing content?
We do. We do it in a number of different ways. One is just looking at the mosaic of what people watch on Hulu and understanding what's popular. It led us down the path to launch in the coming months an original series called The Awesomes, which is an animated series from Seth Meyers and Michael Schumacher of SNL fame. And that just comes simply from the fact that we know that Family Guy and American Dad and The Simpsons and a number of other animated shows had a huge, huge audience on Hulu. So we use collaborative filtering. We have that Amazon DNA that we use at all times, not just from an audience perspective, people who like these shows also like those shows, but get down to the point where we say, 8 out of 10 viewers that like Community also like Parks and Recreation, or like Spy, which is a British comedy that we import. And we use that element for not just, if you think about the traditional sense of how TV programs, where you have your lead in and your lead out from one show to the next, and it's very indicative on how that show will do. We do it in a more dynamic way, much like everything else online, where you have that message talking to you at that time about that show to tune in.
Is that would you consider that to be universal, to the new networks, that the promotion is going on sort of in a live environment, or is it, the original programming exists, sure, and obviously it gets discovered or it doesn't get discovered, and you have a lot of skin in the game, so you're going to want it to get discovered. But once it's active, what are you doing? And I'd be interested to hear from everybody to talk about what you're doing with the live programming as it's getting discovered, to promote it, to win back your investment in it and get the most out of it.
A lot of it simply comes down to the user experience on the site, how we look at our trade experience on the home page. where more than 60% of our audience comes through at first, looking at what's trending, looking at popular, look at what's programmed for you, and saying, these are the things that we recommend, and those recommendations have a very, very high interaction rate. So it's about us getting smarter about not just what everyone likes, but what you like, and really trying to use that to our advantage to drive engagement, because engagement gives us a lot of things, including inventory to sell.
I think that's one of our advantages is distribution or being able to drive views. So Machinima is a really amazing place to me. I feel like I'm getting a PhD in YouTube, really. The number of things that you can do to drive views is like infinity. So I just hired a guy who ran a bunch of CRM kind of acquisition and retention at Disney, right? Because we have mastered the kind of art of YouTube, but we need to convert that art to science and really quantify all the activities we're doing. But we can buy media. There are lots of kind of search benefits that we can drive. We can do cross-promotion within our network. We can have individual creators create stuff. We can use our own social media channels or their social media. We have email newsletter, like all of the different levers that we can pull, right, to get this kind of perfect mix in terms of what the cost is going to be for a view or how to set that particular piece of content on fire. It's really, really amazing. It's a lot more complex than I thought it would be. But we're distilling it down to something that can be repeatable. And I think that is a big deal because a lot of...
Tell me about it. Let me stop you 1 second. Tell me about a success story, or if you'd rather, tell me about a failure story that was based on the art that you want to turn into science.
Well, I don't know if I want to go with a particular advertiser. So if I get a movie trailer, so we had a conversation with a premium cable channel, right? They have fantastic content, and the conversation started, hey, we could do a custom integration with insert YouTube star name here, right, for your show. And then, someone had a aha moment and said, like, why would we do that? Like, this is the best show on television. We just need to take their content, get a cut that really works for our audience, right? A little more intense, a little more edgy, more aggressive, and put that in the network and show show everybody how awesome it is and use some of the tools that we have to promote, right? And that would be the partnership. So let's not create something brand new. Let's not do a pre-roll ad campaign that's typical, right? Let's take a piece of amazing content from someone who's already creating it and kind of work all the levers we have in our network to get the views on that, which was the desired outcome.
Yeah.
I want to know the network. I'm just trying to think in my head. I'm trying to guess. Is it your Desperate Housewives again? I'm trying to think of the show. What show are you talking about?
I'm not going to say what the show is. It's a pay cable channel.
Okay. Randy, let me put that to you. I mean, what are you guys doing to activate that audience in terms of your invested properties?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know for the folks on the panel, and hopefully pretty soon, Kevin over here with Machinima, buy advertising on our platform. So I know, I'll use Netflix as an example. They know there's a high concentration of their audience on our platform, so it's a great place to promote their new shows. That's a very relevant place. So with that data, it's really simple. They have access to it. They know where people are consuming their content. So if they have a new show coming out, they know where to promote it, where that biggest pool is. And then on top of that, for us, I mean, for shows and for the movie studios, it's a lot of just getting content early. I mean, it's getting the right content and smart glass enabling it. And then now, for us, promoting it across Windows 8 and our other platforms has become a huge advantage for us. The fact that we made Xbox a default application in Windows 8, I mean, immediately we had 60 million users from October. So we see that uptick, and then cross-promoting between those platforms is very simple to do. And once again, goes back to my earlier point, which is great for us and great for advertisers, is our users are self-identifying. You're logging into those platforms, and that is who you are, and then we know where you are, what you're consuming on all the different platforms and devices.
Can I make a point on exclusive? Because I see confusion among advertisers with the best intentions. So, and not to insult, but exclusive doesn't mean exclusive like just give me your trailer. Exclusive can very much mean just a version of it, right? So it's cut that in a way that like really works for the audience who you're delivering it to, right? Like a certain sensibility really works for us, right? There may be a different one on Hulu. There may be a different one on Style Hall if you're targeting women on YouTube, right? But just a different cut makes all the difference in the world in terms of resonating with that audience. So it's not like hold it back from people. It's more like consider the audience that you're going after, make a slight modification, and it makes a huge difference in viewership.
So I think each of us have mentioned the word audience here a lot, and in many ways, I wonder if that's the best definition of the future of the network is the audience. And you're delivering either multiple audiences or slices of audience. But Janae, you're dealing with an audience that the numbers, I can't even describe the zeros at the end of them. How are you, do you not worry about slicing that because you know your producers are going to slice that up for you?
No, I mean, I definitely think we're focused on targeting and understanding our audience across different genres of content. And I think we are focused on measurement and making sure that we're bringing in third parties or internal tools to guarantee and make sure that advertisers are getting the people they want on the platform, no matter how broad we are. So I think it's incumbent upon us to understand all of our partners on the platform, to go out and identify the opportunities, to go out and get those audiences. Yes, when you're reaching 800 million people globally across 46 countries and at 5 billion views a day, it's difficult to get an advertiser to actually say, I can go find that specific person and it can be meaningful because it does feel sometimes too broad.
Yeah. Is that also an issue? I mean, the numbers at Hulu and the numbers of users at Xbox are enormous to you. Do you face problems with that where people want differentiation rather than size?
Once again, I mean, just kind of echo those points. It's the targeting capabilities. So we can bring our Microsoft Live IDs, which are hooked up into Skype IDs, find those users back on the device. So I know you're an auto researcher, and then I know you're on the console. I know you're an auto researcher who also plays first-person shooter titles. So it's getting that data, working with an advertiser and find out, okay, who is the audience you want? Let's splice up our data and get that exact audience for you. It becomes very streamlined to do that and extremely simple to do.
So we have 3 minutes and 40 seconds according to this red clock down here, which would be a great amount of time to talk about metrics and measurement. We've just sort of shifted over to the idea of talking about advertisers and talking to advertisers. To what extent are you guys talking to advertisers in the language they understand? To what extent do you think you have to change the way you speak? To what extent do you think they need to change the way they speak?
Yeah, I'd say for us, we structure our business in many ways, and definitely the language that we use in many ways, to the language that networks and studios use, television networks and studios use. So I think when we sit down at the table and talk about the psychographic that we're programming to and the type of content that we're creating and programming, it's very familiar. And it's by design, right? I mean, first of all, that's how we think, but second of all, it helps them understand how they'd work with us really kind of in a really straightforward way, right? We're not coming with like a complex new model, something different. So I would say that Machinima makes a conscious effort to use that language, and it benefits us in terms of partnerships with creators.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been there for a long time, longer than most.
Yep.
It's just the nature of the content that we have on the service, and advertisers have expected that from us from a very early day. So yeah, certainly I feel like we drive a bit of the industry in that regard with OCR and VCE from ComScore with audience guarantees and looking at P2+ pricing and getting guaranteed rating points out to advertisers during their upfront and in their scatter markets. So yeah, I mean, that's certainly the mass majority of the way that we sell.
Okay. Is that the case for you, Rennie?
Yeah, you obviously don't want to confuse our advertisers and clients. They have enough going on with digital and so many things changing. You got to make it easy as possible. For us, we have an interesting twist because I'm almost two platforms. The Xbox Live dashboard, I talk to a lot of digital buyers. I'm on TV, but digital buyers. Now you go inside our apps where I have full screen video experiences. I'm now talking to TV buyers because that's full screen and linear content. Recently, Nielsen just announced that they're going to be rolling out a beta with us, iPads and other devices, to actually have OCR data for that type of experience. We just got to make sure everyone watermarks everything, and then we should be fine. But yeah, it's definitely speak the language of the clients, and like everyone's saying here, we made a very conscious effort to definitely do that.
Maybe a little more challenging for you too?
I would say in the past, maybe. I think we obviously have different kind of cost models that come into play sometimes. I think when you look at kind of the bigger picture though, and the fact that we deliver 60% of the video online in a given day, you start to see that we have to be complementary in measurement and we have to make it easier for a TV buying community to embrace us. So I think we're again, like I mentioned before, we're definitely in conversations with third parties and working on internal tools to have measurement be effective for TV buying.
Do you think there's going to be much change on, the massive audience that's being built for digital video? That's going to be attractive at some level towards changing some of the language that people use when they're talking about measurement. Do you see that happening in the short term, or do you think mainly it's up to you to make sure you're talking to their language and just wait for that to come?
For now, full alignment.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, depending on the client and the advertiser, but I feel that way.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I just think it's obviously we're all here. This is an exciting time. We should all be extremely fired up for all these opportunities. But yeah, measurement's that piece. But we are right there on that cusp of it finally coming all of those platforms together and just making it easier and easier for our clients.
We talked when we were prepping. Sorry.
Yeah.
We talked when we were prepping about like difficulty in some consumers consuming content on the television, like maybe not knowing how to reach YouTube on the television or something like that. And for us, just targeting young guys, not an issue, right? If you want to reach Midwestern moms who crochet, don't advertise on Machinima. If you want to reach young guys who like love action and are immersive fanboys, advertise on Machinima, and they know how to get the content. They only get the content where they want, when they want, right? So it's like that generation, that's what gets me so stoked when you talk about being excited. Like that's all they're watching now, right? So the time to learn about that is right now, and the time to be advertising with it is right now, because you'll lose those guys. That's how they're watching it. I cannot count the number of conversations I have with people. They go, "You work for what? Huh?" And then the next day I get an email, "Oh my God, I talked to my 14-year-old son, and he's like, he loves it." That's exactly what he does. It happens again and again and again and again and again. So that's why I'm so excited about the business that we're in.
We are running out of time, but Kevin's referring to an earlier conversation that we had where I said sort of whinily to everybody on the phone, and I don't like to admit it, but I'm getting to the age where I don't need help with technology except TV. I have problems watching TV, and I think you're probably right that my 14-year-old son has no problem with that, but I think that there's actually a looming issue for the new networks of dealing with the technology that watching it on the computer screen or even on the handheld is relatively easy. Watching it on the big box may be another matter altogether. I think it's a new challenge for the new networks that I don't think, Jack, we have time to cover.
Well, if you have an Xbox, it's easy.
Okay, fair enough.
And you're giving him a free one.
Yes.
Yeah.
YouTube has a nice new design as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really, really good panel.
Thank you very much.
Great way to close the show.